All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on setting yourself up for success. Before we do get started, just a couple of those normal items to take care of. We will have some time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can type those in by clicking that Q&A section in the lower portion of your control panel. We will be posting a recording of this webinar on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you would like a PDF copy of the presentation, you may want it today because there are a few recipes. If you do want that, there will be a link to download that on that same post as the recording. If your question does not get answered today, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. All right, so here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to go over some tips and tricks on how to really just set yourself up for success, like the name of the webinar, when it comes to your overall health. Now, we'll start and spend the majority of the time on nutrition, specifically prepping and planning tips. And then we'll spend a little bit of time at the end on other areas like exercise, just to kind of see what you can do, get some momentum going on that overall wellness. Okay, so like I said, we're going to start with nutrition and some ways to get ahead to make your week a bit easier when it comes to eating. Meal planning and prepping can be one of the best ways to set yourself up for success when it comes to eating better. Because think about it, if you come home or you log off after a long day of work, how are you usually feeling? Are you feeling like, hey, I think I'm going to come up with a great meal idea. I'm going to run to the store to get all the ingredients, and I'm going to whip up a fantastic meal. Now, some of you may say, yeah, I love doing that. If so, you're my hero and probably a lot of others on the call. But I think for a lot of us on here today, that's one of the last things you want to do, right? Is think about your meals and plan your meals. So what happens when we're tired mentally and physically and we don't plan ahead? We tend to make that quote unquote easy decision, right? You order out, you run through a quick option on the way home, you throw in a maybe not so healthy frozen option. Now, you can certainly work on making better decisions when it comes to convenience food and what you're ordering out. That's still a great step to making progress. But today specifically, I want to talk about another way to make it so you don't even have to make that decision in the moment after you get off work or after a long day. That decision is already made for you. Taking some time to decide what you want for meals during the week and having things either ready to go, partially ready to go, or even just a list of what meals you want to do and the groceries to go with it can truly be the difference between reaching your goals when it comes to nutrition. So where do we start? I've got some tips here. First, start slow. You don't have to have every single meal planned every week. Start with one or even two, build from there. You'll start to find a routine, and then as you do, you'll be able to add new recipes, more meals, and things will just start to fall into place. And then we want to get organized. That's huge when we're talking about meal planning and prepping and setting yourself up for success. If you can stay organized, meal planning becomes really pretty streamlined. So first, create your schedule. If you're just doing one or two meals, what days work best to have those meals? Does it matter what days work best? Look at your schedule. Do you have time to make that meal from start to finish, or would it be easier if the meal is completely made and then you just need to heat it up? Do you have something going on that night? Do you have to stay late at work? Does anyone else in your household have anything going on? You may not have all those answers, but find out what you can, plan the best you can, and go from there. Some of you may want to make meals fully ahead of time, so you can just have them ready to go, like I said. And then some of you might just want to have a list of meals, and then you can do all the preparation that night. But really, you need to just stop and think about your own situation, what's going to work best for you. All right, so let's say you decide, all right, what nights do I want to make my meals or plan ahead? What are you going to make? The next part of staying organized is having recipes and go-to options, right? The great news is there are so many recipes online to get you started. You can ask friends and family what they like. Really, really so many options out there. You can have a theme night. Some of our coaches do, like, you hear Taco Tuesday, something like that. That can help you stay organized each week. A crock pot Saturday or something like that, right? So just something that's going to make it easier for you to decide what you want and plan ahead. And then, so once you have a base of recipes that you want, which may take a little while, some of you may already have a bunch ready to go. Some may need to do a little research, but once you have them, make sure they're saved and organized in a spot where you can access them easily so you don't forget about them. I know it seems kind of silly, but there's so many recipes and stuff out there that if you don't have them saved somewhere, you might forget that you made them, honestly. You can go old school. You can make recipe cards, which I love. You can use online tools. Pinterest is a big one, or simply a Google Doc that you can share with other people too. There are apps to help you stay organized. My only advice is to keep those resources cleaned up. I know, for example, I'm due for a purge of recipes on Pinterest that I thought I would use. It's one of those in the moment, oh, that sounds great, but then it's unrealistic for you to make them, or you just decide you didn't want to. So you can make a new page with ones that that you actually use, and then only add to that if that recipe passes your test, and then you can put it in your current rotation. And then, so once you have your base of recipes, right, then you can figure out which ones you want to use for that week. And then we make ourselves our grocery list, right? This is my personal #1 rule before going to the grocery store. Always have a list. Now, I usually go once per week, so I load up. I've got a pretty big list, but depending on your schedule, if you go a couple times or whatever it may be, you can plan accordingly. Now that online shopping and delivery or pickup has become much more mainstream, that's a great way to use those recipes, create your list. And then you also save time, right? Not having to go through the grocery store or get tempted by maybe some things that you see in the grocery store. So it's a win-win in that situation. So something to think about. I mentioned briefly a minute ago with apps for recipes, but there's also specific meal planning apps and websites out there that can help you find recipes, create recipes, based on your food preferences. You can create your grocery list, gives you tips. I've included just a few examples on here. You can see the Paprika, Mealime, PlateJoy, Meal Prep Pro, and Yummly are just a drop in the bucket. There's a lot of different ones. So depending on what you actually want to use it for, do some research. A lot of them start out to be free, and then there's add-ons that you can buy. So just do some research on them and see which one you might think will be helpful for you too. But yeah, any way that's going to help you stay organized is going to set you up better, right? And then after you have your meal plans done, your grocery list created, next step is we get to the good stuff, right? Now, if you're just using a plan just to know what meals you're going to eat for that night, and then having all the groceries ready to go, but you're doing all the prepping the day of, then you're good to go with this. But if you want to do more of the actual cooking and prepping ahead of time, which is great too, then you'll want to invest in some good storage containers. Glass is going to last the longest. It's microwave safe, so super easy to reheat, and it's the most environmentally friendly. So if you're looking for my recommendation, I'd go with glass. But big thing is just to make sure that you've got those storage containers on hand. Another thing to think about is the serving size and how big you want the serving containers, depending on if you want to prep a whole meal and portion it out, if it's for lunch, if it's for supper, whatever it is, you want to kind of think about the different sizes depending on your need. Mason jars I put here as an example, just because they're becoming more popular for salads. If you do a search on that, there's lots of prepping of salads that you can do that you just stick in the mason jar, shake it up for lunch, and you're good to go. But that's just another option for a good container that I wanted to throw out there. Now, the next tip I have for meal prepping is batch cooking. For example, if you like chicken and you're planning to use it in multiple meals for that week, cook it up all at once. Roasting vegetables is another great way to always have kind of a side ready to go that you can heat up. Rice, quinoa, really all of those base ingredients that you like to use in your dishes, you can pre-cook, right? Or cook them all at once, batch cook. We're looking to be smarter, cook smarter, not harder. So think about that when you're planning your recipes too. What can you use for multiple days if you want to plan more than one day? Another way to think about this is simply just making enough for leftovers. Make enough for supper one night that you can have it for lunch the next day, or even supper again the next night. I do this all the time when my kids have something, or my husband, who has an unpredictable schedule, needs to eat at a different time. I'll make a casserole or something in the crock pot on Monday night that we can just heat up on Tuesday between work and practice and all that stuff. So again, it's about just making it simple for you. And I'm a terrible cook. So if I can do this, I promise you can too. And if you're a good cook, then hey, you're already at an advantage. But really, it's about finding a routine, maybe failing a few times on a recipe, but practicing until you get it and then going from there. Another thing to think about with this tip is buying in bulk at the store. Like I said, I'll use a chicken example. If you know you're going to be using chicken multiple days each week, grab it in bulk when it's on sale, throw it in the freezer, or when you know you have time, on the weekend or extra time, cook it up first and then store it in the fridge or freezer for later. Save time and money by stocking those staples that you know that you're going to use. And like I said, find sales for those. Beans, rice, your proteins. Frozen fruits and veggies are a good option too, just to have on hand. And then you can grocery shop in your pantry, right? It feels like you're saving money. And you are, because if you're, get stuff on sale, like I said. Along those same lines, freezer meals specifically are designed to be made and then frozen for use later. So you can buy things in bulk, you can cook everything when you have more time, and then throw it in the freezer in pre-portioned containers for 3 months to have as needed, right? What's easier than that? It's like having a TV dinner, but it's a healthier option. There are a ton of great freezer meal recipes online. I'm going to share one today just to kind of give you an idea of different options. But again, use the resources that you have, which are really unlimited online. Again, try to put that healthy in the search too. But again, just get started with some of this meal prep first. All right, so I've already touched on this a little bit, but I want to talk about some of that food prep, a couple more examples of that. You can cook things ahead of time, like I said, like your meat, like your rice, like your veggies, but other things to think about are prepping raw fruits and veggies too. I know if I go to make my lunch and I want some fruit or veggies on the side, I tend to get a little frustrated when I haven't done my work and wash things and cut them up. It seems like a silly thing to be annoyed about, but those 2 minutes, if I want to get something quickly, if those 2 minutes can make a difference of actually having them sometimes, right? So if you do have time, ideally try to do that as soon as you buy those foods so they're ready to go. Portion them out if you want to, but at least have them washed and cut if you can. Or you can take that next step and buy the pre-cut and pre-washed ones that are ready to go. This typically is a little bit more expensive than just, buying the regular fruit and veggie. But if it's in your budget and if it's going to make it so you eat more of that healthy option, then by all means, give it a try. Along the same lines, instead of cooking your own chicken, which does take time, as we know, buy a rotisserie chicken from the store. A lot of the coaches do this, and so what you do, you've got it all ready, and it's typically more than you need. So you take off that skin, shred that chicken up. It's already cooked and ready to go. You can throw it on a salad, throw it in other meals that call for chicken. Like I said, smarter, not harder. A couple other options to set you up for success, and then we'll move on to some of those other topics, like I said. First is slow cookers and pressure cookers. Big pressure cooker, Instapots are all the fad, or they have been for the last year or so, but I like slow cookers myself. You can throw in the ingredients, let it simmer for the day, or throw them in the pressure cooker and cook your food really fast, right? Either of these options really just give you a leg up and just save your time, right? That's the goal of those. So it's just like meal prepping, and you have all your ingredients, just throw it in and it cooks it for you. It saves that time. So just a couple things to think about there. And then really, if you want to take that last step, you can leave the cooking and the prep and everything to the professionals and try a meal delivery service. This has become absolutely huge. As you can see, just the small, I have a bunch of options here, and it's similar to the meal prepping apps. It's just a drop in the bucket. But, again, it's not for everyone. It can be a little more expensive, but actually, if you do the math and you think about what you're spending on meals and maybe some food that gets wasted because you don't end up cooking and actually using it, it might be closer than you think. So try to do the math and see if it works out for you. But it can be a fantastic way to get those healthy meals without the work. Now, there are some different options to think about. You can have there's some services that will send you the ingredients that are pre-portioned and everything, and then you still make the meal. The meal is already put together, and you just pop it in the microwave or the oven. Some places have both options that you can do. So again, I've included some of the more popular ones out there. I'm sure I'm not catching all of them, but I very much encourage you to look local as well, because I know where I live, there's multiple places that do this in town. And if we want to support those small businesses, this is a great option as well. All right, let's go for a couple recipes here before we move on, just to kind of get you started. So I mentioned this at the beginning, the PDF of this webinar will be saved on the blog. So if you want to screenshot this right now, that's totally fine, but don't write everything down. Download it when it gets posted on the blog here within the next 24 hours, because I'm probably not going to stay on these slides long enough for you to write everything down. I don't want you to get hand cramps either. But the first one I have here is cheesy chicken and rice. So this is great as a supper or pre-made lunches portioned up. And then for this one specifically, I added it because it's got another kind of shortcut. So it calls for cauliflower rice and it gives you the recipe on how to make it, but you can also buy pre-prepared cauliflower rice from the grocery store. There's typically in the frozen section. But as you can see, whichever way you do it, it's really easy to make. So like I said, you can either have it in the plan and then prepare it that day, so you have all the ingredients ready to go, or you can make the whole thing ahead of time. Or even if you have just the chicken already pre-made, because we talked about that, cooking your chicken in bulk, it's still going to save you time during that week, right? It's all about setting ourselves up with little things to help us out later in the week. All right, next recipe is a Buddha bowl. So same thing here. You can cook the quinoa, you can cook the veggies ahead of time, portion them out for lunches or suppers for the week, or just make sure you have the ingredients on hand, cook that evening if you had time. So again, as you can see, this is an actual picture of the recipe here. Looks delicious, by the way, and it's something a little different too, I think. It's a different way to get in some fruits and veggies or some veggies and maybe try something that maybe you haven't before either. Brussels sprouts are typically one that a lot of us don't enjoy or think we enjoy, but I think this is a great way to try it because this roasts it or bakes it and it's delicious. All right, and then I have a specific freezer meal to try. I chose this one specifically because there are a ton of variations, but basically it's cooking up the rice and veggies, let it cool down, throw it in some freezer safe containers for a quick meal on the days where you don't have time or you just don't feel like cooking, right? Because we all have those days. And like I said, I love the variations you can do with this. At the bottom here, you can add chicken, you can keep it with no meats in it or anything, but you can add shrimp, you can add chicken, you can add pork, you can do quinoa instead of the rice. Another option would be cauliflower rice too. But again, just lots and lots of options. Think outside the box, do some experimenting. Again, you might not like everything that you do. That's part of it. But if you keep working at it, you'll find that base of recipes that you'll just be able to rotate through. And then if you want to keep exploring it, which I encourage you obviously, but you'll have that base of meals that you can turn to keep that meal planning in, keep it in your mind, make it streamlined, and you'll be good to go. All right, so let's talk about setting yourself up for success with some other areas. Let's talk about exercise first. So I think the issue that we have is that time factor, right? Similar to nutrition. We just don't feel like we have time in our day to fit it in. So I want to just add a couple things to think about that can either save time or use some other times throughout your day to incorporate some movement in. So first is set out your workout clothes. So this seems kind of simple, but let's say you say, okay, I'm going to wake up 20 minutes earlier tomorrow and I'm going to go for a quick walk. Or as soon as I get done with work, I'm going to do that quick 20-minute, 10, 15, however long is it online video. Now, your alarm goes off that morning. You sit up in bed and you start to doubt your ability to actually get your legs to move anymore. Or you walk to the living room and that couch is looking at you and it's saying, hey, come over here and let's just have a seat. Now, let's say that you see your workout clothes and your shoes sitting at the bottom of your bed in the morning, or they're on the couch or in the doorway to the living room when you walk out there after work. Now, do you think that could maybe help you motivate a little bit to keep that promise to yourself? It's that little reminder, right? That, oh yes, that's what I want to do. This is good. I want to do it, and it can just help. It can't hurt to try at least, right? And it also saves you the time of getting clothes out, giving you another minute to give you an excuse to not do it. I've had coworkers in the past change into their workout clothes before they leave for work for the night. So they're ready to go as soon as they get home, or if they're going to stop at the gym, different things like that. You can wear your workout clothes to bed if you want to, if that works for you, then you're already halfway there when that alarm goes off. Again, it's those little things. It might seem silly, but if we can help ourselves on the mental side, prepare, get motivated, remind ourselves of, hey, I want to do this for me, it can help. Okay. All right, let's talk about adding movement throughout your day too. So doing exercises at your desk. We've done webinars on this before, but really just standing is a great place to start. And then you can add movement. You can add squats or lunges or arm movements, depending on how much room you have. Some hand weights or resistance bands, if you're able to do that. Think about how many times that you're sitting at your desk or wherever it may be, watching a webinar like this, for example, watching a training in an online meeting, maybe when you're not on video, but even when you are on video, could you get up and move around a little bit? Most of the time, probably yes, right? And those small movements help. It gets the blood flowing to the body and to the brain, helps us mentally, physically. All those little movements are going to set you up for a better day overall. And then using your lunch is another time in your day that you could take advantage of. Use half your time to eat because everything's all prepped and ready to go, right? Because you had your meal plan. And then half that time, get in a quick walk or a quick video if you're at home, or whatever you have time for. Walking meetings is another way to use that time that's usually just sitting and get some movement in. Now, I know a lot of us now might be meeting via Zoom instead of actual meetings, and that's fine. So if you're video chatting, can you just stand up and talk, or even walk in place while you talk? It might not always be possible to do this if you need technology or need different things. But again, it's just utilizing the opportunities we have throughout the day. So just think outside the box, come up with some ways to help yourself out. And then making housework a workout. Jog back and forth between your chores. Do some lunges. You carry your laundry across the room to put it away. Squeeze your abs while you're doing anything. Squeeze that belly button right into your spine right now. Just sit there. You're doing an ab workout right now. Again, just be creative. I'm not asking you to add time to your day with these, right? I was very specific with them. You don't need to add time to your day. I'm asking you to add movement to your time. Along those same lines, let's say you're binging Netflix or watching a show, same thing. Try to do movements while you watch. The beautiful thing about technology is that even now you can watch things on your phone. I watch my go-to shows while I'm on the treadmill, and it not only distracts me while I run, but it helps me more productive when I get off, right? Because you use that time, you double dipped, if you will. So you watched a show that you wanted, you got that exercise in. When you're done, you can get some other stuff done. I also pop in my headphones and actually listen to shows or ebooks when I do chores too. So, or if you're a music person, crank the music, dance while you're doing stuff. Great distractions while you're getting work or workout or chores, whatever it is done. Podcasts too are another example of that. So I want to take a second here and get some input from all of you. Does anybody else have a way that you set yourself up for success, either exercise or nutrition or anything like that? I want to share some of your ideas. We only have a couple minutes left, but give me some quick ideas and I'll share a couple on that in that Q&A. I guess you guys, a lot of you guys are using the chats too. But if you have any ideas of what you do, yard work early in the morning, great idea. Park farther for checkout or when you're getting extra steps, when you're going places with shopping. Let's see here. You guys have been chatting while I've been talking, huh? Stretching and jumping jacks, way to start the morning. That's fantastic. Using the treadmill. Yeah, I mean, be mindful of the weather, obviously, too, right? But use those times that you can throughout the day. Share with a friend. I love that one. That's a great one. Structured schedule. I mean, that's kind of what we've been talking about, right? Look at your schedule, see what works for you, because then you can make that more time. You set yourself up if you already have it in your plan. We always talk about as on our coaching calls, schedule exercise, schedule self-care time as you would a doctor's visit or a meeting that you can't cancel unless it's very, very important, right? That something else pops up, but have it in your schedule, have it ready to go. Walk the cat. I love that one. Good. Yeah. Posting on social media is, it can be a great accountability factor. Good. Awesome stuff, guys. All right. I got to get going just because of the time factor here, but since this chat, I think is shared with everybody here, read through these chats when you have time before you guys log off today. Lots and lots of great options already. I love this. Make yourself a priority. Absolutely. We don't do that enough, do we? Awesome. All right, perfect. Sit, stand, desk. That was the last one I just saw. Perfect. I've got one of those at work too. If you're able to do it, do it. It helps. All right. In the last couple of minutes here, so I just wanted to touch on stress and sleep very, very briefly. I'm not going to dive too far into this. So I just really wanted one simple but hopefully effective tip. And we kind of already are talking about a little bit, but it's time management. So time management sets you up for success in every single area we talked about today. So keep that in mind. But I do think it's good to focus on the benefits when it comes to stress and sleep with this. So when we can simply know our schedule for that week, not necessarily change a bunch of things, because that can be hard, right? But as a first step, if you know where you need to be and when you need to be there, you can start to plan ahead to make things easier for yourself. So let me give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Like I said, I'm not asking you to change your schedule, just become aware of it. So let's say, if you're doing a hybrid schedule for work, some days you're home, some days you're in the office. Let's say you're working in the office on Monday. What can you do on Sunday to help make Monday morning a little less stressful? Can you have your outfit ready to go? Can you pack your lunch and have it ready to go in the fridge? Hopefully, now that we talked about the prep, can you have your breakfast already prepped? On Friday, before you leave work, did you look at Monday's schedule and can you prep for any meetings or have any notes ready to go? Do you drop your kids off at school? If so, can you have their stuff ready to go in the morning so you're not running around? Or even better, if they're old enough, can you make them get their own stuff ready to go? Now, I've got 2 kids, middle school and elementary school. I know that's not always going to be easy, but we can all have goals, right? But really, so the purpose of this, and again, I spent very little time on this, but little things that may only take a few minutes at the time can set you up for success by giving some relief that things are ready to go, which can lower our stress, can help us sleep better at night, knowing that you've got some things set for the next day. We just did webinars on sleep. I just did one on sleep last month, and we did on building resilience earlier this year as well. So if you're curious on some more specific tips on stress and sleep, please check out the blog, look for those as well. Obviously, again, we don't have time to cover everything on every webinar. So look for those for some great tips on stress and sleep and go from there. So summary for today, really get organized, right? Big thing with your meals and your life if you can. Again, I know I'm asking a lot, but one step at a time is my next tip that goes along with that. One meal at a time, one snack at a time, one thing at a time. find little things today that you can do that will make your tomorrow a little bit easier, a little bit better, right? Stop and think right now of one thing you can do today that's going to help for tomorrow, and jot it down and then build from there. That's all I'm asking. All right, it is 12:30 Central, so I apologize. I'm going to stay for questions, but just want to get through. We do have our webinars coming up October. We're going to talk about, for those of us that are in the colder weather, we're going to talk about bundling up and some cold weather options. And then in November, we're going to focus diabetes specifically. Now, even if you don't have concerns with your blood sugar, we are going to talk about some lower sugar meals that are just great for everyone. So make sure you tune in with that. And then if you do have lifestyle rewards, if you're watching the webinar today for that, if your company has chosen to ask questions, these are going to be on there. Now, you don't have to do anything. They're just going to pop up and you're going to answer the questions or input them. Most of you won't have to do that. You'll just put that you watched the webinar, but just in case, I have the questions there. Pretty easy, hopefully, if you paid attention. And then here's our contact information. We have great tips and stuff on social media, the blog, that's where you're gonna watch this webinar recording, and you can watch all of our past webinars, and there's other great posts on the blog too. And then if you do wanna talk with a health coach, give us a call, shoot us an email. Either way, we're happy to chat with you. And like I said, I'll stay on for questions, but if you do have to take off, thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful day.